shooting Mr. Scott.
You probably know Star Trek III: The Search for Spock as the movie that brought Spock back from the dead. But behind the camera, things got real strange. We're talking secret codenames, costume disasters, and even a literal fire on set. From studio paranoia to unexpected actor drama, the making of this film was anything but ordinary. Whether you're a lifelong Trekkie or just Trek curious, here are 15 weird facts about the movie that might just surprise you. Number 1. Leonard Nimoy had to fight to direct. You'd think after playing Spock for nearly 2 decades, Leonard Nimoy would be the obvious choice to direct The Search for Spock, right? Not exactly. Paramount was hesitant. Nimoy had never directed a feature film before, and they were still a little sore over his past comments about wanting to leave Star Trek altogether. To the studio, that didn't exactly scream trustworthy. But Nimoy was serious about stepping behind the camera, and he wasn't alone. Producer Harve Bennett believed in him, and William Shatner actually backed him up too. Eventually, Nimoy got the green light, but only under strict studio oversight. They kept a close eye on him throughout production, monitoring everything from budget use to shot choices. In the end, Nimoy nailed it. Not only did the movie finish on time and under budget, but it also helped launch his second career as a successful director. He'd go on to direct Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, and later, the hit comedy 3 Men and a Baby. Not bad for a guy they almost said no to.
Ship. Out of danger.
You saved the ship. You saved us all. Don't you remember?
Number 2. James Doohan's missing finger was hidden on purpose. You may not have noticed it, but James Doohan, the actor who played the ever-reliable Scotty, was missing a finger on his right hand. It wasn't a character choice or a makeup trick. Doohan lost the finger during World War II, after being shot by enemy fire during the D-Day invasion. Rather than draw attention to it, the filmmakers went out of their way to keep it off camera. Cinematographers and directors would use clever hand placement, props, and even body doubles when needed. You'll notice he's often holding something in that hand, or it's just out of frame. It became a sort of silent agreement throughout the original series and the movies. Hide the hand, respect the actor. To this day, many fans don't realize it unless someone points it out. Doohan rarely talked about it, but the quiet cover-up adds one more layer to the legacy of the actor who helped keep the Enterprise running.
Scotty.
As good as your word.
Aye, sir. The more they overthink the plumbing, the easier it is to stop up the drain. Here, Doctor. Souvenirs.
Number 3. The movie was almost about Romulans. Klingons might have stolen the spotlight in The Search for Spock, but they weren't the original bad guys in the script. Believe it or not, the early drafts of the movie had Romulans as the main villains. So why the switch? According to producer Harve Bennett, the change was partly strategic. The studio felt that casual audiences were more familiar with Klingons, thanks to their heavy presence in the original series. Plus, Klingons looked more dramatic on screen, especially with those ridged foreheads and warrior costumes. There was also a practical reason. Klingon ships and costumes were already in Paramount's vault. Romulans would have required new sets, makeup, and ship models, meaning more money and more time. As a result, the Romulan warbird that was supposed to play a major role was turned into the now iconic Klingon bird of prey. Even the cloaking technology remained, a detail traditionally associated with Romulans. So while Search for Spock gave us a classic Klingon villain in Krug, it almost went in an entirely different direction. One pointed straight at Romulus. Number 4. Star Trek III had a game, but almost no one played it. You've probably never heard of a Star Trek III video game, and there's a reason for that. In 1984, Sega reportedly developed a Laserdisc arcade game based on The Search for Spock, complete with scenes from the film and interactive gameplay, but it was never released to the public. Why? No one knows for sure. Some say technical limitations, others say licensing headaches. A few prototypes may have existed, but no working cabinets have ever surfaced, and no ROM dump has been found. It's like the holy grail of lost Trek games. Meanwhile, Star Trek III did get an official board game from FASA, but it wasn't one game, it was 3. The package came with 3 solo mini-games under one box: Kobayashi Maru, Free Enterprise, and the Sherwood Syndrome. The themes? A no-win test, a smuggling run, and Robin Hood in space. Seriously. So yeah, Search for Spock had games, but like Spock himself, they were a little mysterious and a lot unexpected. Number 5. The paycheck that killed a character. Saavik and the Salary Showdown. One of the weirdest behind-the-scenes stories from Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, involves a paycheck, or rather, one that never got signed. Kirstie Alley had played the half-Vulcan Saavik in Star Trek II, and fans expected her to return in the sequel. But when it came time to negotiate her contract, things got expensive. According to Leonard Nimoy, who directed Star Trek III, Alley's agent made a salary demand that was higher than DeForest Kelley's, who played Dr. McCoy and had been with the franchise since the very beginning. The studio balked at the number, reportedly calling it way beyond what they could afford or justify. Alley later claimed she was actually offered less than what she made in the previous film, despite Saavik having more to do this time. In the end, the standoff led to Alley being replaced by Robin Curtis. Same character, new face, all because of a number on a contract. So, the weird fact? One of Star Trek's most promising new characters got recast not for drama or death, but for dollars.
Admiral, this is Lieutenant Saavik.
Is David with you?
Yes, he is. And someone else, a Vulcan scientist of your acquaintance.
Number 6. Spock was given a code name to prevent leaks. By the time The Search for Spock went into production, Paramount had trust issues, thanks to the massive spoiler leak that revealed Spock's death in The Wrath of Khan before it hit theaters. This time, they weren't taking any chances. To keep Spock's resurrection under wraps, the studio implemented extreme secrecy protocols. One of the strangest? Spock wasn't even called Spock in official documents. Instead, he was referred to as Nakluv, which is just Vulcan, spelled backwards. Scripts were printed on traceable paper, sometimes chemically treated, and copies were watermarked so any leaks could be tracked back to a specific person. Leonard Nimoy's name was even left off internal call sheets, just in case they fell into the wrong hands. Set visits were tightly controlled, and some scenes were shot out of order to confuse potential spies or leakers. In an era before the internet made spoilers a daily hazard, Paramount went old-school cloak and dagger to protect the twist. It might seem over the top now, but back then, keeping Spock's return a secret felt like a mission worthy of Starfleet. Number 7. Recasting young Spock almost happened. Spock doesn't say much in The Search for Spock, but he does age rapidly thanks to the unstable Genesis planet. That meant several young actors were needed to portray Spock at different life stages. But casting these roles turned out to be more complicated than expected. One of the young actors, Stephen Manley, who played teen Spock, almost lost his role due to scheduling conflicts. Shooting was delayed, and Manley had already booked a new TV project. Paramount briefly considered recasting his part, which would have meant reshooting already completed footage. Fortunately, the production worked out a tight window, and Manley was able to film his key scenes just in time. All told, 4 different actors portrayed Spock's evolving form, including Carl Steven, age 9, Vadia Potenza, age 13, Stephen Manley, age 17, and Joe W. Davis, age 25. To keep the performances consistent, voice actor Frank Welker provided vocalizations for screaming, pain, and confusion. It's easy to overlook those brief moments on screen, but behind them was a tricky casting puzzle that nearly unraveled mid-shoot. Number 8. Saavik was almost pregnant with Spock's child. Yep, this was almost a thing. In early drafts of The Search for Spock, there was a subplot suggesting that Saavik became pregnant after helping Spock through his Pon farr mating cycle on the Genesis planet. If you blinked during that scene, you might have missed the implication. But originally, it was meant to be a much bigger deal. In the script, the writers hinted that Saavik and Spock shared an intimate connection during his unstable, rapidly aging phase. But the idea of Vulcan baby drama didn't sit well with everyone. Ultimately, the pregnancy angle was dropped from the final cut, and no official reference made it into the movie. However, the novelization of the film does include it, and it became something of a controversial footnote in Trek lore. Some fans consider it canon, others pretend it never happened. So, while the movie never outright confirms it, Saavik might have walked away from Genesis with more than just emotional baggage. She may have been carrying a baby Spock. Number 9. William Shatner versus his uniform, the weighty challenge behind the scenes. During the filming of Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, William Shatner wasn't just battling Klingons, he was battling his own costume. As production began, Shatner was determined to slim down for the role of Captain Kirk. He went on a strict diet, trying to match the heroic image expected of a starship captain. But as shooting stretched on, Shatner's weight started to fluctuate. Long hours, stress, and probably a few missed gym sessions led to noticeable changes in his body size. The result? The wardrobe department had to scramble. Instead of tailoring a single uniform, they ended up creating 12 different versions of his costume, each one slightly adjusted to fit his current size. It became a running joke among the crew. Which Shatner are we dressing today? This odd little detail highlights just how human even science fiction legends can be. Behind the confident swagger of Captain Kirk was an actor dealing with the very relatable problem of fitting into his pants. In space. Number 10. The Klingon pet was made from wig hair. Remember that weird little creature that snarls at Krug's enemies and sits by his throne like a loyal attack dog? That gnarly Klingon pet had a surprising origin. It was built from recycled wig hair. The creature, officially unnamed in the film, was designed by makeup and effects artist Kenneth F. Smith. Because the production was trying to stay under budget, the team scavenged materials from the studio's leftover bins. The creature's fur? Old synthetic wig hair from previous productions. Its eyes? Off-the-shelf glass taxidermy inserts. Even the snarl and head movements were puppeteered by hand, often just out of frame. Though it had minimal screen time, the pet added a layer of intimidation to Christopher Lloyd's portrayal of Commander Krug. And oddly enough, fans remember it to this day, despite it never showing up again in any other Star Trek project. So the next time you spot it growling on screen, just know, that beast was built on a budget, and with leftover hair.
Good shooting, Mr. Scott.
Number 11. The bird of prey sound came from a real Navy ship. The Klingon bird of prey is one of the coolest ships in Star Trek history, but what really sells it is the sound. That heavy, metallic hum, it's not science fiction. It's Cold War-era military tech. The sound designers at Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, wanted something gritty and mechanical for the ship's engines, something that felt dangerous. They ended up using real audio recordings from a US Navy submarine, reportedly an old diesel-electric model from World War II. That deep, chugging, droning texture gave the ship its now iconic presence. Other layers included slowed-down machinery, distorted generator noises, and even metallic groans from naval shipyards. These analog sounds were blended together to create a vessel that felt alien, but also grounded in reality. What's wild is that this was all done before digital editing took over. It was reel-to-reel tape, knobs, sliders, and a lot of creative splicing. So yeah, next time you hear that bird of prey fly in, you're hearing the ghost of a real warship. Number 12. The film finished on time and under budget. Hollywood productions going over budget and behind schedule? Pretty common. But The Search for Spock? It was the rare exception, especially surprising since it was Leonard Nimoy's directorial debut. Paramount gave Nimoy just 49 days to shoot the entire film and a modest budget of around $16 million. For a special effects-heavy science fiction sequel, that was tight. The pressure was on. Not just to bring Spock back, but to prove Nimoy could handle the job. Against the odds, he nailed it. The production wrapped on time, and even slightly under budget, thanks to Nimoy's calm, prepared approach and a strong supporting team. Crew members later said his directing style was collaborative, focused, and respectful. No diva behavior, just steady leadership. That success earned Nimoy instant credibility as a director. It also led directly to him helming Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, which became one of the most successful entries in the franchise. Not bad for a guy making his first movie behind the camera, with the galaxy watching. Number 13. Star Wars tech was quietly reused. Star Trek and Star Wars are often portrayed as rivals, but behind the scenes, there was some sneaky crossover, especially in the tech department. Industrial Light and Magic, the legendary effects house founded by George Lucas, handled visual effects for The Search for Spock. And while working on this film, ILM quietly reused equipment originally developed for Star Wars, including their motion control rigs and optical printers. These machines were crucial for shooting complex spaceship shots. The same rig that once filmed the Millennium Falcon, it helped capture the Bird of Prey and the Enterprise sailing through space. The optical printer, which layered multiple images into one frame, was also borrowed from Return of the Jedi just a year earlier. Of course, the final look of the two franchises is very different. But the tech under the hood? Surprisingly shared. So even if the Enterprise and the Falcon will never meet on screen, Behind the curtain, they've flown on the same hardware. Number 14. William Shatner helped fight a real fire on set. No, this isn't a deleted action scene. William Shatner actually helped battle a real fire during the filming of The Search for Spock. During production at Paramount Studios, a fire broke out on a nearby soundstage. Flames started spreading dangerously close to the Genesis planet set, one of the most elaborate and expensive builds in the movie. Before firefighters could arrive, crew members, and even some of the cast, jumped into action to stop it from getting worse. According to multiple reports, Shatner himself grabbed a hose and started helping put the flames out. Whether it was heroism, instinct, or just a very Kirk thing to do, his quick action helped minimize the damage. Still, the fire forced the crew to patch up parts of the set and reorganize their shooting schedule. The cause of the fire? Arson. Investigators later found it wasn't related to any special effects or accidents. It was set deliberately. In a franchise full of explosive moments, this one was all too real, and Captain Kirk was right in the middle of it, off script and on the hose. Number 15. Scripts were tracked with invisible ink. Paramount really didn't want a repeat of what happened with The Wrath of Khan, when Spock's death leaked before the film even hit theaters. So for The Search for Spock, the studio took script security to a whole new level, including the use of invisible ink. Each copy of the script was uniquely watermarked and printed with traceable chemicals. Some even had pages dusted with an ink that would only show up under UV light. That way, if any part of the story leaked, the studio could trace it back to the exact person who let it slip. Cast and crew were also required to sign NDAs, and some pages were numbered individually and distributed only on the day of filming. Even internal call sheets left off key names like Leonard Nimoy's to keep things tight-lipped. It might sound like something out of a spy movie, but to the studio, it was serious business. They weren't just guarding spoilers, they were guarding box office gold. So there you have it. Star Trek III wasn't just a story about bringing Spock back to life. It was full of strange twists behind the camera, too. If you enjoyed these weird facts, give this video a like, subscribe for more science fiction deep dives, and let us know your favorite Trek trivia in the comments. Live long and rewatch.